Hey guys, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here tonight to chat about the new Black Keys album, Let's Rock. Black Keys are an Ohio-based blues rock duo that in the last few years I feel like have gotten a whole lot of garbage sent their way, so much so that I feel like we've kind of gotten pretty far away from just how great they were when they first started. Early albums like Thick Freakness and The Big Come Up are genuinely muddy, dirty, grimy, true-to-form blues albums. Even when they started like a little polishing up of their sound on Rubber Factory, I still thought that these guys were just so on top of their form, and especially in like modern blues. But as the years went on, I feel like some weird stuff started to happen with me and the Black Keys. When it came to Magic Potion, I kind of felt like, man, like they really needed to like up their formula a little bit. Just wasn't doing anything for me anymore. And then we had Attack and Release, which was their first outing with Danger Mouse, and for me, just way too hazy. And then in an even odder thing, like I started appreciating the Black Keys for other reasons around the time that Brothers came out. This was a much cleaner, pristine, glossier album, things that I really should hate, especially with modern blues, especially with the Black Keys as well. But the songwriting here is on point, and some of the singles here, like Next Girl, are fantastic. But I don't know, man, ever since I've kind of been on a downward slope once again with the Black Keys. El Camino, when it first came out, I was totally hyped on it, totally into a lot of it, but it's only lessened on me over time. It's a little too glistening. And honestly, we really don't have to talk about Turn Blue, because then I might turn blue. Actually, that album is one of the worst rock albums I've ever heard. Now, honestly, these new singles that the Black Keys have been dropping lately, for lack of a better word, are honestly too good for their own good. Like, I think that this is some of the best material they've been dropping in a while. Let's chat about this new album. This album starts off with Shine a Little Light, and who turned on the volume? This track is absolutely amazing. I would go as far as to say that this is the best, like, intro to an album they've done in years, and one of the best Black Keys tracks, like, in 10 years. It's a whole lot bulkier, it's a whole lot muddier sounding, at least as far as the instrumental goes. Outside of that, still business as usual, very clean. But call me crazy, this track absolutely rips. Dan Auerbach on vocals sounds absolutely refreshed, and the backing vocals are a really great twist as well. It's a little heartbroken, still pretty true to form. This is a real wake-up call. Like, this album is far from amazing, and still is like a far cry of what they were doing in their early days. But at the end of the day, though, when this album is on, and when the Black Keys are on their A-game, they're writing some of the best tracks that they've done in years. Take, for example, Low High. Once again, I really don't hate this. It's grimy, it's grungy, and it's bluesy as hell. Like, take this track and compare it to the sunshine pop that Dan Auerbach was putting out on his solo album a couple of years back. It's stunning that this is the Black Keys right now. This is, once again, a genuinely great tune that's pretty true to form. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that these tracks could have landed on like Rubber Factory, but this is a classy modern blues tune. Every Little Thing, once again, is a big, bulky, muscular blues track. It does sort of have that hazy production that tracks on Turn Blue had, and I was totally against, but at least here comes off a little bit of purpose. Not to mention, Dan's performance here is genuinely one of his best of the bunch. It's this very old school, straightforward, bare bones Black Keys sound that worked for them years ago. Like, this really isn't too much to ask for moving forward. And Go, once again, as another single, is a great track. It's upbeat and surprisingly determined, one of the more determined ones here. It's got that upbeat, catchy riff that tracks like Lonely Boy have had in the past. And yes, it's still very glossy, very pristine. But oh god, is this track ever catchy, and yeah, I don't have anything bad to say once again. Like, I really do wish that the Black Keys stuck with tracks like this, because if they did, we would be onto something really special here. But then we get a lot of tracks on this album that show the Black Keys kind of drifting off into some old bad habits. Take, for example, Walk Across the Water. This one makes me scratch my head. I really hate when they go for this very dreary, slow, psychedelic rock feel. It's just not what I think that they could pull off. The songwriting here is average at best. and the performances are just so dragged out, so boring. Like, it's times like this that I feel like somebody threw a glass of water in my face and reminded me of why the Black Keys have fallen off so hard. I have a lot of the same feelings for Tell Me Lies. Like, once again, we're on that very slow, dreary, psychedelic kind of style that I just don't think that they can pull off. And it's a shame because here, this one has a really great hook that actually gets me pretty pumped. But everything else about this track is just a really bad flashback to the wishy-washy material they were putting out before their hiatus. What a shame, which is what I could say about most of this album. By the time we get to the tracks like Get Yourself Together, I honestly feel like the Black Keys are going for covers. That's how faceless some of these tunes get. But because of their very retro, classic rock aesthetic, they can still pull it off to at least some extent. But for me, though, this track is just so damn cheesy. Like, this sounds like Dan's solo material from a few years ago, which is a little bit more oomph. This one does have a lot of potential, but it's not really realized. And no, it just ends up becoming not good and just completely forgettable. And Sit Around and Miss You kind of starts off as a pretty decent ballad. It's dreary and it's genuinely broken down at times, which I don't mind. Dan's performances are still pretty decent when he actually puts some effort in. But once again, I feel like the potential of this track is not completely realized. All the pieces are almost here. But honestly, it's just the Black Keys' passion that's completely missing on tracks like this. Every time this album gets picked up and gets moving in a positive direction, we get tracks like Breaking Down and like, what is going on here? It's a shame. I love the tragic nature and the genuine sadness behind this chorus once again. But these verses are torturous and some of the worst material I've ever heard from the Black Keys. Even that final guitar solo absolutely rips. Like most of this album, all I can say is, what a shame. And with Under the Gun, I feel like I have just so many thoughts once again. The very gritty riff here is actually totally fine. And the chorus, once again, is great, but where is the passion on these verses? It's not to be seen. Once again, it's almost like too close to a good track. It just makes me think at the end of the day that the Black Keys have sort of lost their touch. There are another couple of tracks here that are pretty decent. Take, for example, Eagle Birds. Like, this may not be the wake-up call that some of the early tracks on here was, and it kind of shows the Black Keys playing it safe, but at this point, I can't really be mad at that. It's upbeat, and it's pretty rough around the edges, pretty decent. But it's gotten to the point where, like, I hear some of these backing vocals, and I'm instantly pointing out how genuinely cheesy they are, but I've realized they actually totally belong there. They're totally necessary for this track. That's where we are with the Black Keys. But I digress. The bluesy breakdown is a great throwback, and I love the upbeat vibe to this one. Like, it may not be my favorite single of the bunch, but it's pretty damn good. And the finale here, the strangely Twin Peaks referencing Fire Walk With Me, is actually a pretty great send-off. It's the sort of upbeat and groovy track that I'm never going to completely hate from the Black Keys. It's got a whole lot of funk, and I actually really love Dan's very smoky performance here. Not to mention, as a finale, this kind of just seems like it came very easily to them. There's no stretch. No, it's not even corny. It's nothing like that. It's just a really great tune as a finale. So this is, once again, a very frustrating album from the Black Keys, because the handful of tracks here that are good are some of my favorite Black Keys tracks in ages, like over 10 years, easily. Their songwriting is still intact. They can still write really catchy, grimy, and even true to form blues tracks when they want, but some of their old habits just refuse to die. Some of the hazy production and the cheesy songwriting just seems to haunt the Black Keys, and until they can shake that off, I feel like they're never going to be able to make an album as good as like The Big Come Up or Thick Freakness ever again. So I'm feeling like a strong 6 on this album, but let me know what you guys think down below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, guys.